Hello, everyone, and welcome to the HP Podcast, episode number 316. I'm Ben. With me here tonight, this evening, as always, are the beautiful boys from Mississippi. Dave, who is not anywhere from near Mississippi. Hello.
Hi, how are you?
I don't know why I decided to intro you guys like that.
Wow.
It just kind of rolled off my tongue at the last second. How do you feel about that, Dave?
I live near a city called Mississauga.
I was getting confused, actually.
Yeah. Which is very close to, it sounds like Mississippi. And if you've seen the video circulating the internet today of a plane hitting the ground and flipping, that happened in the great city of Mississauga. So,
okay.
World news.
Yeah.
Did you cause that plane crash?
I was 20 minutes away when it happened, but I did not cause that.
Okay, I was going to say, if you don't answer the question, I will assume, wink, wink, that you caused that plane crash.
Yeah, no, I literally, I was at my mom's house, and she lives right near the airport, and I got in my car to leave, and then I turned on the news, and it said, breaking news, plane has crashed at Pearson Airport. So if I looked in the right direction, I could have seen the smoke, but I did, or maybe even heard it, but yeah. Wild stuff.
Dave, do you listen to the radio in the car?
I do.
Like the news?
Yeah.
That's how you know you reached old man status?
Yeah. I've been listening to AM radio for probably closing in on 15 years now. I don't only listen to talk radio, but it's especially these days because it's kind of shit to listen to some of the stuff. But yeah, like talk news and like sports stuff, but I mean podcasting is very much like talk radio, right? Like it is. I listen to podcasts sometimes too, but
sure,
yeah, AM radio it's often on in the Lambden car.
Yeah, I agree that podcasting and radio are very similar. And as a matter of fact, when I tell people about podcasting and they're like, I don't know what that is, I'm like, it's kind of like a radio show.
Radio.
Right. But at the same time, I think there's an infinitely older man status you acquire by listening to radio. And then on top of that, you can add another 15 years to your age just by saying it's AM instead of FM.
Yeah, and I'm gonna.
And I'm on board with that, by the way. I'm not slamming you. I think that's dope.
I'm gonna add more years to that age this summer when I sit in my backyard and drink a beer and listen to a baseball game on AM radio.
No, that's
Jesus.
After I cut the grass, like right
that's
after.
choice right there. Yeah.
I've still got the New Balances on.
Right.
Yeah. That's
The dad shorts.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Brandon, you are maybe the closest thing to an old man without actually being an old man as possible to come by.
Yeah, I mean, I do have very curmudgeonly aspects about me.
Yeah.
I've said that for a long time. Now, what I wonder, Dave, is did that plane crash because someone forgot to put their phone on airplane mode?
I think it was because they forgot to put their tray table up.
Yeah.
Or maybe that they didn't push the bag underneath the seat the whole way in.
Exactly. Yeah.
That kind of threw the plane off balance.
All of these things happened. Somebody got up to go to the bathroom when the little light was still on, and
Yeah.
it's all
Please be
chaos.
seated.
Yeah.
They ran out of ginger ale.
Yeah.
It's like that that Weird Al song, Albuquerque. It's like 11 or 12 minutes long. And
That's
there's a part in
banger.
that. There's a part in it where he's like, I got into this plane crash and everybody died except for me. And then he goes into a chorus about why. And the reason he didn't die is because he had his tray table up and his seat in the full upright position. I had to explain that to my son. And then when we were on a plane recently, he was like, why do they make you put, because he had his like switch out on it. He's like, why do they make you put it up? I was like, because if something happens and the plane hits like really bad turbulence, it'll smack you in the face. Well, sure enough, those guys in Toronto, Mississippi, Toronto, would have found out. If they had their tray table up, it would have smacked them right in the face when the plane flipped over.
But have you guys ever had to ask the person in front of you to put their chair up?
I've kicked chairs in front of me really hard when they just like jam it back into your legs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. Sometimes it's just like it. I understand they're supposed to move in a fashion so that like you still get the same amount of room.
You don't.
But I've been in certain planes where like when somebody puts their chair back, like and there's a screen on the back there now, and it's suddenly the screen's like this way, and I feel like an asshole, but I have to tap the guy on the shoulders like, I'm sorry, I'm 6'1". Can you please put your chair up?
Yeah. But Dave, 6'1" isn't like please be inconvenienced because of me height.
The
He's
other
flexing,
problem
dude. He's flexing.
is like I have an abnormally long torso. So like when I'm sitting in a chair, like a normal 6'1" person, their eye level would probably be shorter than mine because I have
Okay.
tiny little legs. I've actually measured like the proportion of my torso to the rest of my body, and the percentage is really weird. But yeah, so it's worse for me because if that chair comes back, it's not comfortable, and I feel bad doing it. But
Yeah.
come on.
I don't understand the people. Like, I get it. You want to put your chair back. You want to relax on a plane. But putting back your chair might give you an inch of recline, but it takes up like 4 inches of the person behind you space. It's not worth it.
Yeah.
It's the juice is not worth the squeeze. Now, granted, it's somebody else's juice you're squeezing or something like that. But, yeah, it doesn't. I don't understand that. Like, you only get like an inch of recline, but you take up like 4 inches. Brandon, you know all about 1 inch.
I have a better visual representation of around 3 to 3.5 just off of the cuff.
Okay.
Anything above that, I would say I'd be a little bit iffy on about a 4-inch difference.
Yeah.
But do you know why they called him the Juice?
The juice?
Yeah,
Because his name was OJ?
because his name was OJ.
I just
Well,
watched that documentary.
Think
last
about
week.
that.
Yeah.
Think
Was that
about
supposed to be like a hidden thing? Like a not something that people didn't know?
The more you know.
As we discussed last week, Brandon is our local sports aficionado. So
He did it.
Yeah.
nobody thinks he didn't do it.
He did it.
According to the in the special that just came out on Netflix a little while ago, his agent claims he admitted to him that he did it.
Yeah.
Of course he did.
He wrote a book called If I Did It and then talked about I did it.
Right.
I mean, once you get the verdict is not guilty. You can no longer be tried, which is insane.
Yeah.
Imagine.
I just hope he suffered in the end in some way.
Yeah, I think he was unhealthy for sure. Imagine if, like, you went to court, they say you didn't do it, and you came out and said, I did it, and here's a video of me doing it. They can't try you again. Legally. That's insane.
The loophole, dude. That's the loophole.
You gotta always have that extra video prepared for just for shits and giggles after the fact.
That's right.
Yeah.
Get the not guilty verdict and whip out the phone and show show the jury.
Yeah. Like, nobody thought of looking at my phone. Got him. This is the HP podcast. We talk about video games and O.J. Simpson committing murder from time to time. We're happy that you're all here with us. We're live pretty much every Tuesday night. Maybe a couple times a year we switch that around. But every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Eastern on the YouTube channels. Handsome Phantom and Ben is Handsome. You can also listen to us on free feeds or on Patreon feeds, whichever you prefer. If you want to support us on Patreon, you can do so over at patreon.com/handsomephantom, where you can sign up for as little as $1 a month to support your boys. Get ad-free early access to the show. You get that on either Tuesday night or Wednesday. Free feeds listeners, you can wait till Thursday. You deserve it. But we still appreciate you. You can also join us on Discord over at handsomephantom.com/Discord. You can join, like, I don't know, 100-ish, more than 100 people hanging out in there. Some of them are quiet. Some of them don't talk at all. We don't like those people. We like the people who talk.
The lurkers.
But we like the people who hang out and don't talk, the lurkers who don't talk, more than we like the rest of you who aren't there. So keep that in mind when you're thinking about your New Year's resolutions. Get in the Handsome Phantom Discord. Dave, what size Coke bottle is that? It's a Canada bottle, I know.
It's Coca-Cola Zero Sucre,
Mm-hmm.
because everything's in French and English. It is 710 milliliters.
710, not 750.
What the fuck
No.
does that mean?
Tall and
Wait, here.
skinny. I don't know.
710 milliliters, 2 ounces. 24 ounces? 24.008 ounces.
Is that a lot?
I feel like that's like a weird size, isn't it? Do they make 24.008 ounce bottles?
I mean, they make
in America?
24-ounce beers, don't they? No, that's just 2 beers. They make 20-ounce beers.
Coke bottle.
So this is 2 beers. Okay.
I mean,
Oh,
it's
I know
2
that.
12-ounce cans of beers. Yeah. Except it's Coke. Sucre.
12-ounce cans. Aren't the cans 12 ounces?
You know, it's wild to me because it's zero everything. It's 0 fat, 0 calories. What is in here? Like there's just nothing in here. Like this is just it's nothing.
It's fake
There's gotta be
sugar
something.
and food dye.
GMOs. Artificial flavorings. See, this is what America's
Parasites.
giving. This is what America's giving to you guys.
Coke Zero actually has parasites. Like all diet soda has parasites in it. That it actually has calories. That's why it still tastes good. But the parasites take away calories. So in the end, they can really just zero it out.
Huh.
This is not the truth, people.
Honestly,
Hopefully, no one actually believes this.
what's a good tapeworm? You know, you're trying to lose some weight, just have one in you for a bit. He does all the work. I mean, people are doing Ozempic. That's 6 in one, half dozen in the other.
Yeah.
This doesn't require needles, so
Somewhere RFK is like, don't you talk about Coke Zero.
Here's the thing about Ozempic. I have no desire. I have no desire to take Ozempic. And if I did, I certainly would not want to go the needle route. Like, I'm not afraid of needles, but I don't want to stab myself all the time.
I hate them.
But I'm getting recommended, like, because when I was like my aunt was taking it, and I was like trying to figure out what it is, and I was like searching it, and ever since then, I just get ads for like chewable Ozempic all the time, and I'm like,
Hims.
I don't want it. Does Hims have it now too? Something like it?
Oh, dude, of course. Were you watching? We could talk about this for a second. Were you guys watching the Super Bowl?
Yep.
Yeah.
So they're like, the food's poisoning us. The government's poisoning us. They run all the medical companies and do all the studies. And I'm like, yeah. And then at the end, they're like, now buy our weight loss drug. It's just like everything that we just told you is happening is true. Now pay us money.
Right.
Because you're fat.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Marketing's so weird, man.
They ran it during the Super Bowl where they knew everybody was sitting around with a bag of Cheetos and a dozen chicken wings on their lap.
I know.
Yeah.
It's very strange. I'm not disagreeing with the beginning half of the ad, but it's also like very tonally strange to me.
Doesn't Hims have like a sister company called Hers?
Yeah.
Or it's the same company, I'm sure.
Yeah.
They make chips.
I just don't know what ladies would have to do with boner pills. Like, I don't.
Yeah.
Lady boners.
Some ladies bald.
I've been doing it wrong. I've never seen one of those.
Let's talk about video games. This comes from Video Games Chronicle, and it says, in an interview with the Xbox Era podcast, Spencer was asked about comments he made during an FTC hearing in 2023, in which he claimed that every time an Xbox-owned studio sold a game on the PS5 store, Sony's 30% cut was being used towards deals to block other third-party games from coming to Xbox. Now that Xbox is releasing numerous games on PS5, Spencer asked if he was now less focused about Sony's 30% cut, and more focused on the 70% cut Xbox takes of each of its games sold on PS5. Spencer replied this was the case, and that trying to get PS5 owners to move to Xbox instead of just selling directly to them was no longer a viable strategy. Quote, it's maybe not what I was going to say on stand at the time, but yeah, I would love to make all of the money for all the games that we ship right now. Obviously, we make more on our own platform. It's one of the reasons that investing in our own platform is important. But there are people, whether it's their libraries are on PlayStation or Nintendo, whether it's that they like the controller better, or just like the games that are there, and I don't want to then look at that and say, well, there's no way we should be able to build a business there, find fans of our franchises there. I'm not trying to move them all over to Xbox anymore. We're also invested in where our games are. Let's just allow more people to play. And yes, the 70% that we make on our games on other platforms is helpful to us being able to build great portfolios like we showed at Developer Direct, and I hope this will continue to show through the rest of the year. Boys, I want to get your thoughts on this. We've kind of known this has been Xbox's strategy for a little while. Certainly, if you didn't hear rumblings or, see other interviews, there have been plenty of reasons to know that based on the fact that they're releasing games on PlayStation and elsewhere now. But I want to know what you think of the overall strategy. I think it's a pretty healthy one. Dave, how do you feel?
Yeah, this is it. This is the death of Xbox. He said it. He said it right there. And they've gone full Sega now. They're a publisher.
Yeah.
At least I think they're going out on a bit more of a high than Sega did all those years ago, and Sega's still very much alive and doing very well. But Microsoft is going into this thing with a whole lot of assets that Sega didn't have, and I think this is probably a smart move. So I don't know. I don't know if this is really Phil Spencer and Microsoft kind of conceding here, but they're taking a route that is probably best for their company and not going to be pining for people to buy their box anymore because evidently they just can't compete. So making 70% of every copy of Call of Duty and all the other big IP that they now own on every console is probably going to make them a lot of money. It's going to make Microsoft very, very rich. And it's going to take a long time for that investment into all of the studios they bought, all of the massive studios they bought to see a return, but it's going to happen at some point. I've thought that people were going to stop buying Call of Duty a long time ago, but it just doesn't happen. So, this to me feels like the death of the Xbox. And I don't know what you guys think did it, but I think there's two things that started the downfall. One was the Xbox One reveal show they did. I'll never forget that because I sat there and watched them spend way too much time showing Kobe Bryant and NBA games and how they could stream from the Xbox. And I'm just like, this is so wrong. Like, they are completely missing the point of what we're looking for as gamers. Like, I don't want something to be the center of my entertainment, living room. I just want something that I can play really good video games. And that they pivoted from that. Like, they came back a year later and it was games, but it was too late at that point. And the second thing is the Shuhei Yoshida video with that other dude where they're showing how to loan a PlayStation 4 game. That 30-second, 40-second video, whatever it was, that was the other thing that killed Xbox. So, they're publishers now. What I want to know is, what does post-Xbox Sony look like? because they've already started to get a little complacent. They've already started to coast through this generation a little bit. And the best Sony was the one that had Microsoft breathing down its neck, or the Sony that was trying to catch up to where Microsoft was ahead of them. So I don't know. I'm glad to see that Microsoft is kind of conceding and going to go more the publisher route. But at the same time, what does this mean for us as gamers? Because competition is a good thing. Competition breeds really, really good products for us. And I don't know that Sony has much of a competition any more than they did traditionally. So I don't know. This could not be a good thing. But yeah, in any sense, this is a big moment in my eyes.
Dave, what do you make of the fact, and I'll go to Brandon here in a minute, but what do you make of the fact that Xbox is dead, as you said, as a console, but they've claimed they're still going to continue to make consoles? Do you is there any scenario in which their market share increases even slightly? And if not, what's the point?
I don't think so. And I brought this up many times that I really want to know what this thing is, because, you know, if you pose the question another way and say, is Microsoft going to make another box that's purpose is to compete with the PlayStation? I'm going to say no. It's just going to be a companion thing that's going to somehow complement the Xbox Game Pass ecosystem. But otherwise, they seem completely happy putting their games out where people are going to buy them, which is PC and PlayStation. So I don't know. I don't know if it's a streaming box or what it is, but they seem to start to blur the lines a little bit between what is an Xbox, and it seems to be a lot of different things now. So I don't know. That traditional competitor, I think, is gone. It just is. But I'm still curious to see what their next box is going to be.
Bando, is Xbox dead? What killed it? And what do they do now?
Yeah, I mean, Dave brought up a lot of good points, and I agree with him completely. I think it's been about 10 years of losing that has brought Xbox to this point. And
technically, they were losing during the 360 generation, too. We just didn't know it till after the fact.
It's been many years of losing, let's say that. You know, things like the Kinect. I feel like they try to take a lot of risks, like a company like Nintendo does. And when Nintendo does it, it typically pays off, excluding the Wii U. But they're trying all these new things, and nothing quite stuck. Whether it's the Kinect, whether it's the whole home entertainment. Some gimmicky shit, some Nintendo-y shit, but it never really worked. And this is the combination of all that up to this point. I think the saving grace for Xbox is going to be this. I think they need to completely pivot themselves out of the market and out of the competition from PlayStation altogether. I see Xbox existing as a hardware piece, but as a hardware piece that's about half the price and will stream your games. It's completely, like Dave said, a companion piece. This is how they continue to grow the ecosystem, is to not make people decide whether they want to buy a PlayStation or an Xbox, because on PlayStation you can have both, right? You can have PlayStation titles and Xbox title now. But on Xbox, the hook's going to be what, guys? The hook's going to be that our thing is cheaper, and you can have Game Pass. I think that's the only reasonable explanation. Well, the only reasonable way forward for Xbox is to kind of get themselves away from PlayStation at this point. Take their 70%, say everything is an Xbox, have a companion that is $250 or $300, and then it's a no-brainer for people that maybe don't want to buy into a full ecosystem of PlayStation, or maybe don't have the scratch, and you could reel in that entire mass market with the price tag. So I think that's really the way forward for Xbox, is to make a massive pivot in hardware. I don't necessarily want to see them go away, but they have to change something big, because this 1-for-1 with Sony is not working, and that's clear by the numbers. I mean, it's 3-1, and that's not going to get any better based on the past 10 years, as I've said. So,
Brandon, why do you think they have to they need to have a what? Sorry, let me start this over. What does a $250, $300 device, which by the way they already have the Series S, which is $300 at launch,
even cheaper? You know what I'm saying? Like $150, $200.
Well, look at the Fire Stick. The Fire Stick, I think you can get a 4K Max, whatever Fire Stick for like $50. Buy a controller for another $50, $60. You got $110. Spend $10 a month, or I guess it's more than that now for Game Pass Ultimate, whatever it is to stream. They get the subscription, they get the recurring revenue, they get occasional purchases as well, especially as they're making your games available to play streaming that you own rather than the ones that you're just renting.
Right.
And I mean, if you've got good internet, which
Most
granted
people
not
in the
everybody
US
does,
don't.
but more and more people are
Yeah.
getting good internet, and you're the average gamer. Yeah, if we talk about your average gamer that goes to Walmart and picks up new games, you're talking about Call of Duty, FIFA, Madden, the staples, right?
Right.
But like, there's a lot of other games that exist that are not heavily reliant on reaction time like Call of Duty is.
Right. I guess I'm thinking I was being a little bit generous with the price tag. I'm honestly thinking barely a step above a Fire Stick. Like let's get something branded. It's
Dedicated.
paired. It's paired with a controller. You have Xbox OS. And like I actually see some appeal in that a little bit. What if you're like, okay, I have one controller and I have a stick on every one of my TVs so I don't have to move my Xbox everywhere. You know what I mean? Like I see some sort of market with that. Like I see some sort of, grandma doesn't have something and she likes playing Candy Crush, so we set her up with Peggle. Like I don't know, man. I think there's something there, but like I said, I'm going to reiterate. I think the play is cheap for them. And they're not going to be making money on this. But I think they should still have some sort of hardware, even if it's minuscule, just to continue to get people invested in your platform.
That brings up something that's been rumored for quite a while, and there's lots of rumors, but this one's been going on long enough. I'm more likely to think of the where there's smoke, there's fire analogy. Handheld. I mean, yeah, you do the streaming stick, you do the streaming box, whatever, get a little Roku size thing, whatever. But everybody's going handheld right now. Everybody's making handhelds, whether it's the Portal, which is streaming. They've talked about another handheld for PlayStation that's going to be native. We've got the Steam Deck, of course. We've got the Switch that can be handheld.
Right.
Xbox, they've got all sorts of third parties that are working with them, basically putting Windows on a device so you can have Game Pass on your handheld. But I don't know why Xbox just wouldn't do it out and out.
Yeah. And with, the rise of streaming services, I also almost see Xbox like maybe partnering with other companies. You know how these streaming services will be like, pay this price, and then each company gets a little kickback from this. So it's like you get Peacock, for instance. You know how all these streaming services are buddying up, right? They each get a slice of the cake. I don't know.
Most of the time they're owned by the same person, but yeah. I'm thinking
Either
of like
way.
Disney, ESPN,
Right.
Hulu, yeah.
Right. But the point being is I see them, as you get into this digital-only space, I see them diversifying in ways that we've never seen Xbox diversify in the past, just to simply keep revenue up. And to answer your question, Dave, kind of about the Sony not being a competition, I mean, I think that's Xbox not being a competition for Sony. Obviously, I think that's a net negative for Sony. I think competition is good in any business sense. I mean, that's just a fact. But I also think PlayStation's not really in the best spot it's been either. I mean, we've seen many failed attempts to try and get things launched off the ground. We've seen a lot of strife in the upper management of Sony and PlayStation. Stuff's coming out today that we were talking about before the show about some weird stuff that happened to Shuhei Yoshido, some of the tenured employees that have been there and how they've maybe been mistreated by former CEOs. So I think long term it will definitely negatively impact Sony, but I don't think Sony is the strongest it's been either. Even if they're winning in hardware, I think they're very confused, and we've talked about that for months now. I think they're kind of grasping at straws right now. And the gaming, ecosphere is kind of plateauing, and in a way, we're seeing that a lot with the layoffs in the past couple years. And Sony's certainly not out of the question as far as that goes.
Well, everybody's going to be screwed when the new Soldier Boy console comes out.
He was the first rapper to have a console.
That's right. It really was. It's interesting because Snoop is making games now. His son, really.
I saw that. Yeah. He's a gamer.
He's a big Xbox gamer specifically. Wonder what he's going to do with all that smoke,
More like an X-bot.
Wow. That was rude. That's one of the OGs you're talking about there.
I'm rude.
The rebranding, by the way, of Snoop Dogg from a gangster into like a sells Febreze on commercials is insane.
Dude,
It's weird when you go back and watch like 90s Snoop Dogg
Yeah.
and then you see where he's come and it kind of ruins it.
dude,
Yeah.
It's kind of like going back and watching O.J. Simpson highlights from his heydays in Buffalo.
oh, dude, that's the
Kinda
juice.
ruins it. Yeah.
That
there
is
you
the
go.
juice. Guys, all the rappers go soft. That's how you continue to make money. Think about Ice Cube. Think
Yeah.
about Ice T's doing. How long has he been doing it? NCIS or whatever it is.
CSI or something. Yeah.
CSI, crime
Yeah.
scene investigation. You know, God bless him. God bless him. It was a good day.
The wrestlers have all gone to actors, which there's some.
God.
They've got some experience.
I fucking hate The Rock. I think he's an awful actor, and I think he's probably a bad person. And I wish I'd stop seeing his face everywhere.
Why do you think he's a bad person? I mean, I don't have any reason to disagree with you or agree with you.
I've
Look
heard
into
he's
it, dude.
terrible to work with. Like
Yep.
he's,
Yeah, but so am I. I'm not a bad person though.
I've heard that. Now, look up. I heard some sleaze about him and Vin Diesel, and I have nothing but ill will towards Vin. No, I just don't really like Vin Diesel either. But I've heard some dirt. You know who is the anti-Rock? David Batista.
Keanu, oh yeah.
That guy is a G. He's also a wrestler, but he's also a good fucking actor. And
John
he actually,
Cena.
dude, John Cena,
Yeah.
another fucking quality product of that
Really
era.
funny. Yeah.
Yeah.
Obviously Stone Cold drinking the sex on the beach. Y'all ever watch that video where he drinks frou-frou drinks? Stone Cold Steve Austin.
No.
Have you seen the one where he's trying wine with the Undertaker? Like, that is indeed a tasty beverage. And it was the Undertaker's own wine, and he didn't really know anything about it. Yeah, it was funny.
Yeah. He's Stone Cold's like drinking sex on the beach. He's like, "Oh, the illustrious sex on the beach. There's nothing good about sex on the beach." He's like, "Bring me a beer."
Speaking of John Cena acting, everybody go watch Peacemaker.
Yeah, I heard that's good.
It's great. Second season coming soon, I think. Let's talk about the next story, because I'm bored of that one. According to Eurogamer.net, and I saw this everywhere, Nintendo has announced it will discontinue its gold point scheme across the Switch eShop and official Nintendo website. From March 25th, 2025, players will no longer be able to earn gold points from purchases. Points earned before this date will still be usable. Gold points are currently earned through purchases on the eShop or an official Nintendo website, essentially like a loyalty scheme, and then can be redeemed for a discount. Pre-orders for digital games, excuse me, made up to and including March 24th will still earn gold points regardless of the game's release date, even if the payment occurs after this date. Points will not be granted if the pre-order is canceled or if payment fails. Pre-orders after this date will not earn points. Gold points can still be earned by registering physical games as long as the game was released by March 24th. Gold points can be earned up to 2 years from a game's original release date in Europe, 1 year everywhere else. Lastly, gold points are valid for 12 months from the date of being earned, expiring at the end of a calendar month. That means gold points earned up until March 24th can be used to receive a discount on the eShop for another year. Guys, Nintendo's doing it again. They're being Nintendo. They're making a weird decision with
All right.
something that probably didn't cost them very much money.
Let's hear it, apologist. Come on, Dave. Come on. Let's hear it.
I'm mad
Let's
about
hear
this. Yeah, I'm quite mad about. And the thing that's suspicious is how many times the word scheme was used in this article. But I don't know. I've actively tried to purchase physical for my Switch for the last several years, and I think I haven't purchased a whole lot directly from the eShop. The biggest games I can think of are like Tears of the Kingdom and Monster Hunter Rise. But most of what I've purchased from the eShop are small things, like $10 and under. But I'm still confident in saying that via gold points, I saved like around $20, which I know it doesn't sound like a lot, but it was cool.
Still free money.
Yeah, I'd go to make a purchase. I'm like, oh, I can save $2 here or 50 cents here. And I considering this is an ecosystem that, you'll spend maybe $1,000 in over the life cycle of the platform, and that includes the money you're paying for the for the hardware, it is nice to have a little kickback somewhere, even if it's small. And it kind of sucks that this isn't there, or it's not going to be there. So I really hope there is a replacement for this. And the one area where I saw this as possibly hurting Nintendo is with indies, because there are two places I buy indies primarily: on my Switch, on the eShop, because most of that stuff isn't physical, or on Steam. And at the moment, Steam doesn't have any monetary reward program. Like, they have points, but you can only really use that for like digital stuff, backgrounds,
Decorations.
profile. Yeah. Whereas like the eShop did have this little bit of money that I can earn. So like in that sense, the eShop has a competitive advantage for me that benefits indies as well as the eShop over Steam. And with so many people moving over to Steam, or, you know, adopting PC gaming, I don't know. I think that in that sense, this is not a very good move. And, you know, we have the Switch 2 coming out soon. We have the full reveal coming on April 1st, software reveal. So there's a good chance that they could just be revamping this. And I really hope that's the case, because I can't imagine this was costing Nintendo too much money, and it does nothing but good for gamers. But, you know, we know the way that Nintendo does business, so I'm not going to hold my breath for any kind of replacement. But yeah, I'm not going to apologize on Nintendo's behalf for this. I'm upset about this, Brandon. So are you going to share in my anger, or are you going to be the one to apologize for Nintendo?
I feel nothing. I don't really buy games on my Switch. I mean, obviously it sucks. I feel like most of the people I know do not buy cartridges. I bought cartridges for my Switch because that's what I like. I like physical games. But a lot of people that I know that own a Switch, I don't even know that most of them have a single cartridge, to be honest with you. So I feel like this does benefit, at least anecdotally, a lot of people that I run into, because the Switch is a console that a lot of people that don't have consoles have, at least in my experience. So, yeah, I mean, there's another shitty thing. I think that it's going to be completely fine and everyone's going to forget about it, but I won't. I will put it on the list, the very long list and growing everyday list of shit that I have for Nintendo. The only thing that's keeping shine in the good list is Reggie. That's the only constant on the good side.
He's not there anymore, though.
Yeah, but he was a beacon of hope, okay?
Sure.
And he represents a time past that's now gone. Like all good things, they end.
Let me ask you guys both a question here, because you said some things that made me curious. You guys have been redeeming the points from your physical games as well, right?
That's okay. So I was in this article, it said something about you register your physical games.
Yeah.
I don't know shit about
does that happen automatically? Or?
No, you just go into, I don't remember exactly where it is. You go into the system settings, into the settings for the game, where you can like delete your save data or whatever like that. There's somewhere in there, and I could get to it if I had my Switch in front of me, but you just go in there and select like redeem points.
I should do that. And sorry, just so everybody knows, I'm redeeming my PlayStation Stars rewards right now before those are taken from me. So yeah, but I didn't know you could do that. So I'm gonna go check that after the show and see if I rack up some coins for that.
I mean, I don't know how many physical games you have, but you get a couple hundred per physical game.
Yeah, dude. You might as well buy Ark Survival Evolved now, Dave.
That's
here we
happening.
go. Here we go. When you have the cartridge in, press the plus button over the game tile on the home screen, and the option is there.
I'm glad they made it easy.
Yeah, so I have to pop in every single one of my physical fucking discs.
Yeah.
Well, cartridges.
You might get enough to buy Cat Quest,
I don't know, man.
which is an excellent game, by the way.
I don't know, man.
Yeah.
It would be the only... I would have to, like, find the cord and, like, find where my Switch is.
Yeah, it's not for you, Brandon. This is not for you. This is for people who play their Switch.
Okay.
At one point, I like took a bunch of my kids' games because he was like, I don't know what that is, and he buys all, like, anything he would buy would be on my account anyway.
Yeah, you buy all his games anyway. So.
Yeah. So I just registered and I'm like, I got $5. This is great. I don't know if there's a way that they can like know that each because like, can I redeem the points and then give it to you and then you redeem them? I think I actually tried that early on in the Switch's life cycle, and I think there's something that tells it like this game, the points for this game have already been redeemed. That way you couldn't load it to your buddy.
Derico says the game has to be less than a year old.
I can verify from my experience, at least in one instance, that was not true. Because like 6 months ago, I realized the code or the points for Mario Kart 7 that I bought the first year the Switch was out. I redeemed the points for it.
Mario Kart 8.
No, Mario Kart 8. Thank you. Okay.
Fuck the Switch.
Speaking of Nintendo, talk a little bit more about them. This comes from GameBro.com, a source I don't think we've ever quoted on this show. But it says Nintendo has been in a legal fight with Pocket Pair, the team behind Palworld, for months over patent issues in Japan. Now, with 2 U.S. patents approved for creature-catching mechanics, things might get even more intense. Since these mechanics are a big part of the lawsuit, Nintendo could take the battle to the U.S. next. Let's break down what these new patents mean. 1. Nintendo's creature capture U.S. patent approval. Nintendo appears to be reinforcing its legal position against Pocket Pair. Oh, this says 3 new patents. Okay. Patent number whatever was granted in December of 2024. Another one was approved on February 11th. And a third one was issued in January 2025, but it's more about trading items between players, so it may not be as big of a deal in this case. Both the other ones cover mechanics where the players aim and toss objects to capture creatures, pretty much what you do in Palworld and Pokemon. I don't know that we need to go into the depths of all this, but I get it. We've gone over this before. We know the Palworld devs knew what they were doing, right? There's a reason the game was marketed as Pokemon with guns, and even if the developers didn't say it outright to the public, they said it to their PR team or somebody along the way. 2, it is probably well within Nintendo's rights to sue the hell out of them. But I just really have a problem with the fact that they're getting patents for stuff after the game they want to sue has already been out for a year. That's the part that bothers me. I don't know that it's illegal. I just think it's unethical. Dave, now it's your turn to be the apologist. Go ahead.
Yeah, I don't know. As long as somebody is making a profit on something that you perceive to be stolen, I don't think timing matters. But I see what you're saying. I for one I'm once again not going to be an apologist for Nintendo because I just don't do that on the show.
No, never.
But my issue is the ticky-tackness of trying to patent mechanics. Like
Right.
It's patenting the likeness and protecting creativity of something that is your intellectual property is one thing, but patenting an action to me is just it's pushing too far. Like, what is stopping Activision from patenting shooting somebody with a gun? Well, you'd say, well, that's too vague of an action. So, and I'd agree with that, but where's the line? You know?
Imagine somebody had patented turn-based combat. Where would Pokemon be?
And in Nintendo's eyes, and they could have done that, but it's just it's going too far in my eyes, and I was happy to see that the U.S. Patent Office had shot down a number of these requests. I suspect Nintendo's going to do what it needs to win this lawsuit and ultimately get Palworld taken down or very severe damages. But I just don't like this. It's not. And again, just to reiterate what you said, Ben, like, I think Pocket Pair knew what they were doing and they were taking a risk. And I'm happy people are enjoying playing their game, but I also don't feel sorry for them. So yeah, I don't know, but this is another ugly side of Nintendo that I don't like. And this is just not a company that you fuck with, but it's not cool. So patenting an action is just, it's low. It really is.
My curiosity is more on whether they want to punish Pocket Pair, which they do, but is that the main motivation is what I'm saying? Or whether they want to prevent another Pocket Pair or another Palworld in the future. Because we've talked about before how when you have a patent, when you have a copyright, you must enforce it in order for it to be enforceable in the future. Like you must take action. It costs you a lot of money not to really file a copyright or a patent. That's relatively cheap in the grand scheme of things, especially to somebody like Nintendo patenting or copyrighting Pokemon, which is the most popular IP in the world. Like that's a drop in the bucket to do those actions. The real cost to protect it, the real cost comes in when you have to protect it. Every time someone tries to violate it and you are made aware of it, you must try to protect it in order for that to be held up later on, at least in the US. I don't know about international law. And I'm really just a very novice, not below a novice at US law, but that's my understanding. But I wonder if it is more to protect, like they'll still maybe have to go after Palworld to some extent, but is this more to protect their trademarks and copyrights and patents and everything else being violated in the future by securing these things? That seems more likely to me, that they're just future proofing. But there is somebody at Nintendo, who's like, we're going to get those indie devs. Like, there's no doubt about it.
Remember that 60-year-old man they arrested for like...
Well, he was, I mean, wasn't he like showing people how to jailbreak and emulate and stuff?
He was selling.
He was selling them. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, he was selling.
Yeah. I didn't like that either, but again, it was illegal. I understand it. Brandon, I know what your position is, but why don't you tell everybody else?
Yeah, I mean, I don't like that it's getting traction in the U.S. I wish they would just keep it over there. But yeah, I don't know. I have the same exact position you guys have. Is it wrong what Palworld did? Morally, maybe, but I don't really think they have much legal ground. Now, I'm not no lawyer, but I don't know. Fuck Nintendo.
It's pronounced lawyer.
I like Pokemon as much as the next guy, and it's never going to go away. So just let this one anomaly. The chances of something this big happening again recently are low. I mean, how many Pokemon clones have there been that have barely made waves? Okay. This was a phenomenon. This was an outlier. And I mostly tend to agree with you, Ben, that this is probably setting a precedent for inevitably 20 years down the line when something else does happen and they're still making the same trash Pokemon games and you can't buy Red on your Switch 10, but Nintendo's going to be Nintendo, as we just say time and time again, and it's fine because they have the IP and their games are cute and they run like shit, but we love the games.
Yeah.
We'll keep gobbling them up. Yes, sir. May I have another?
Let's talk about Steam. We're talking about all the platforms tonight so far, to some extent.
How steamy.
The Verge says Steam's early access program helped small to medium-sized developers get an idea off the ground, but not every game actually does. Now Valve has a notice designed to warn Steam users when they visit an early access game store page if it's been a minute since the last update. If the devs' lofty goals for a 1.0 release were a bit too lofty, then it's probably time to do some due diligence before spending money on what may be abandonware. Valve hasn't formally announced the feature, but both Eurogamer and PC Gamer pointed out as first highlighted by SteamDB. One example where you can see this warning in action is the store listing for Cavern Kings, which flags its developers have not updated the game in over 8 years. That's probably long enough to say the game is abandoned, though the developer has since worked on another title. On the other hand, Pirate Software's Heartbound currently has a warning for not being updated in 13 months, and the recent mostly negative user reviews track with that. But the developer just posted an update note in January to explain the hiatus, and also dropped a patch days ago on February 1st. So this may not be fully fleshed out or a foolproof feature yet. Now, guys, I'm of two minds about this, and both of them are represented here. One, I think that it is a good thing for consumers. It's a very consumer-friendly thing to say, hey, the game you're about to buy or looking at, you can buy it if you want to. We're not stopping you from buying it. But just so you know, there's not been anything new in this early access game in years. Now, you could say, well, if a game reviews very poorly, they should warn you about that too. Well, they do with the review system, but they should tell you, like, most people return this game, kind of like Amazon does with some items. I think that's a bit too far. So I'm okay with this system of this game just hasn't been updated and it's in early access, which means it should be getting updated. On the other hand, who deems how long it takes for an update to come out? It seems like I think it was Pirate Software, was still working on this game, had put out an update or had put out a, at least a communication type update, but hadn't actually updated the software, and they got tagged with this mark as well. If I'm in early access and I say it's going to be 5 years before this game's ready, well, who's to say that I should get that tag if I don't update it for 3 years because I'm not ready yet, and I've given a timeline in advance. So I don't know. I'm kind of a mixed thing. I think this is a very consumer friendly thing, but I do fear it may hurt devs in the future. It also could help devs in the future, because if less people buy their unfinished game and give it bad reviews, then that's potential for their other projects to not be marred by a poor review score in the past because people bought an unfinished game. But I don't know. I'm kind of a mixed opinions about it. Brandon, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think for somebody like me who's not a dev, it's obviously a net positive. And I think that it's mostly a net positive, at least in my eyes. Do I think that a lot of people that use Steam will read much more into it than seeing that warning? No. I think if somebody sees a warning like that, most people won't even consider it. They'll just say, no, I'm not interested. And that's kind of what you're touching on, Ben, that like maybe if there is actual work going on, it's like, what are the thresholds to which this can negatively affect the developers who may or may not, be falling on hard times or falling behind on something or needing to update something about their work. So there's a lot of unknowns. I think ultimately it is good. And oftentimes with good, you get some bad. So I don't know. Steam just keeps doing this user-friendly shit, man. It makes me very, very pleased to be on PC and on Steam. So,
Dave, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm not of two minds on this. I think this is 100% a positive. It's a great move. It's another great move by good guy Valve. And I don't know if abandonware is a widespread issue. And generally speaking, I think early access is probably being used for the right reasons for its intended purposes. But if you put the early access label on your game, you are insinuating to your customers that this is a product that is going to progress towards a full launch. And if it stops progressing, then it's no longer early access. So in my mind, I'm wondering what is stopping Steam from either delisting the game or pushing it into 1.0. Because I'm sure Steam and Valve has data on the different updates that an early access title is getting, and maybe they see that on average games have a 2.5 year lifespan from early access to 1.0, and there are X number of updates that happen in that 2.5 years, and there's 6 months between each update. Well, if Valve can see that, and then they have a select number of games where there have been no updates and the developer has stopped posting in the community hub and there's just been nothing, then there's got to be a way in the background to flag that. And, Steam can do something about it, because ultimately this is to protect gamers from false advertising, which is effectively what abandonware is. If you buy something early access, you're buying an evolving product. And if the developers walked away from that, then it's not early access anymore. So I'm all for this approach, and I hope Valve continues to enhance the governance around early access, because it is starting to be a more fast and loose term in its use. And I'm not, it's a great way for small to medium-sized developers to self-fund their projects to full release. And it's a really good tool that way. But if people are going to start to abuse it, then I think somebody like Steam needs to kind of set the precedent about how that's going to be treated. So I'm all for this.
There's two things I'm thinking here about how to... One, if you are a small developer just working on the game and you put it into early access. I know big developers put games into early access too sometimes. That's not what I'm talking about right now. But a small developer, small team, solo dev, whatever, working on early access, and you see that your game isn't performing as you would want it to, then I personally would not be offended by, I'm just going to I'm going to make the final update, put the game out in 1.0, and just note, like, this isn't everything I hoped it would be. It's $5. Like, I would probably be more likely to buy that game than many early access games that would have a flag on them, right? that haven't been updated in years. And then the other thing I'm wondering is if I'm a developer who is still making a few sales, whatever, a couple hundred sales a month, a year on Steam, and I want to avoid that flag, I'm pretty sure all you have to do is update something in the back end and it's no longer, dormant. So I don't know what their parameters are here. I don't want it to be easy to abuse if it's going to exist, right? Because if a game is abandoned, I don't want somebody to be able to go in and post a text post and it say it's not abandoned, or it not say that it is abandoned.
Right.
Overall, I'm with Dave on the way early access is going. I think you're right. Early access is really powerful and can be really cool for games that are still working actively, and they've just gotten to a point. Some of these teams are maybe they're a very small team working on the side, or they're a full-time team working in somewhere where they can, they've got a little bit of savings and they can afford to get by, whatever. But putting a game in early access can, especially if it hits any kind of an audience, can really change the trajectory of that game and make it way better. Or it can make it just gets to the point it can be complete where they thought it was going to be. But there's so many games that are like, well, this game isn't going to be ready for a while. We got to get some money. Let's put it in early access. There's a big difference between people who are doing it to help research their game, to help fund their game, etc., and people who are doing it just because, like, I need to make some money. I don't know that either are morally wrong. I just think that there's a difference for sure. Next story. I haven't got a chance to actually read this. I saw a little bit of scuttle about it on the tweets earlier today. But this is from PC Gamer. It says Marvel Rivals developers in the US are saying they've been laid off despite launching a game with more than 20 million players. It's a big hit, the first real challenger to the longtime hero shooter big dog Overwatch. Yet amidst that success, with more than 200,000 people playing on Steam alone right now, this is a few hours ago, NetEase game director Thaddeus Sasser says the Marvel Rivals development team in the US has been laid off. Quote, "This is such a weird industry," he wrote on LinkedIn. "My stellar talented team just helped deliver an incredibly successful, new franchise in Marvel Rivals for NetEase Games, and we're just laid off." His profile lists him as game director at NetEase, working on Rivals. The game's creative director is Chen. I don't want to pronounce the first name because I don't know how to. Level designer Jack Burrows confirmed the layoffs in a separate post. "Well, just got laid off from my job working with Rivals with NetEase. Was an enormous pleasure to work with my American coworkers who joined me in this sad calling. Just couldn't dodge that big boot, I guess, no matter how big the success of the gig." And that's really the heart of the matter. Why would NetEase do this? Rivals is a major hit, and as reported by Chinese site GameLock, it seems to be making a lot of money, an estimated $136 million in its first month alone. At the same time, the game is still finding its footing, as we recently saw with Multiversus. A strong start can fade quickly if the team behind it doesn't stay on things. By the way, I doubt Multiversus earned anywhere near $136 million in its entire offering, let alone the first month.
No way.
Boys, what do you think of this Rivals U.S. team? Granted, okay, a lot of people I saw on Twitter immediately like, the game's failed. The U.S. team that seemed to have been signed to a specific tasks were laid off. Sucks. But what do you make of it? Dan.
I mean,
I said Dan, like Dave and Brandon at the same time. Probably wasn't really helpful. Dave.
Brandon, you go first.
Dandon.
I kind of feel like now that the launch has happened, do we think that maybe this is like they were almost there for a part of the launch, and now that it's kind of reached fruition and it's become successful, they're able to run on a leaner basis?
I think that's probably the case. I just don't think that they knew about it from the sounds of it. I don't think they knew that was the plan.
Right, and that kind of sucks, obviously. But I mean, at the end of the day, this in no way signals to me any sort of issue with the company. I mean, maybe with the communication, but that's about it. I think that this looks like to me something that was probably always the plan from the outside looking in. And that's never fun, but that is just kind of the way it goes, especially in this industry anymore. They're exactly right. The big boot of big company. It doesn't really spare anybody, even when you are successful. So, this isn't like me, but I kind of want to spin it on a positive note, where, these people have an insane thing on their resume. Not that it's ever fun to, get back into something, but having one of the most commercially and successful games in the world right now, certainly would buff up the resume in a way that a lot of other things wouldn't for a multiplayer game atmosphere. So I think that's kind of huge for them. Obviously it's not good they lost their jobs, but I guess it's good that at least they were part of it for a time. So
in chat, Derek, who knows everything every week, always keeps us updated on the latest scuttlebutt, says that's kind of a joke, but it's also kind of true. The U.S. team was 6 people total, apparently. I don't know if that's true or not. That's what Derek says. I believe him more than I know for my own sake. So, Dave.
These people on Twitter and Blue Sky who lost their jobs, obviously they seem upset. But the weird part is they all seem kind of surprised. And that kind of leads me to the question, I need to know what these people did on the game. If you were responsible for production localization or something like that, I'm kind of surprised you weren't on a contract, but also you think you would know that once the game launches, you're probably going to be moved on to something else, or I don't know. If it was something small like localization, like does that require a game director? So I really need to know what these people were working on within the game, because it seems like they thought that they were going to be kept on for some period of time post launch. But yeah, I mean, in any case, the article kind of alluded to how Multiverses had an okay start. It had some success early on, and then it kind of fizzled out. So I really hope that NetEase isn't making the same mistake where it seems to have a much better start, but people lose interest pretty quick. So even if you're the hottest ticket in town, from January to March, other games are coming out. People are going to lose kind of interest. So you got to keep that iron hot, because there's always something vying for people's attention, no matter how much fun people had with your game at launch. So I would really like to know what exactly these people were working on within the game, and hopefully that does come out. But I also hope that NetEase is not spiking the football a little bit too early. Hot dogging, as it's called. You guys see those videos of the football players and they go to celebrate and they drop the ball before they actually cross the end? Yeah, that kind of stuff. Hot dogging.
Derek in our Discord sent a tweet that said, it's from Johnny Ebbinger, and it's replied to by Nick Calandra, who says, I was told that all 6 people at the studio were laid off. But the tweet he responds to says, the only insight I can possibly add is that I'd heard NetEase is pulling all investments out of North America, started last year. Are these layoffs all the North America design team? If so, then it appears no. It doesn't matter how successful your game is. Corporate policy created by geopolitics and trade relationships do. I'll be interested if that's true. Then in the near future, we're going to see more developers, NetEase developers in the U.S. Lose their jobs. Now, whether or not that affects everything in the U.S., I don't know. Like they have a few. There's literally only a few PR reps in the U.S., and I'm imagining they have some sort of like, I don't know what to call it, but ambassador. Like somebody who does their business for them with U.S. government or U.S. entities. So I don't know, but yeah, it seems like it sucks either way. 6 people got laid off and apparently didn't expect it. But I would agree, Dave, that like the one guy was I think it was a level designer, one of the people who spoke out. And although, you would imagine Marvel is going to continue having levels from here on out, did they need a higher price developer to design levels that are language agnostic, essentially? I don't know. I'm not saying it doesn't suck, obviously, that they got laid off, but if the whole rest of the team is in China, do they need more people here? China.
So it's a Trump thing, is what I'm hearing potentially.
Sure. NetEase is pulling out all investments out of North America. Started last year. I don't know. That could be anything. I know that there's tons of tensions with Chinese investments and American companies and government and everything. And there have been for a long time, and there probably will be for a while, because they're both powerhouses. Although, no, I don't want to get in the geopolitical stuff, but regardless, there's a lot of tensions. So them making a statement or a necessity based on trade stuff could be a possibility, but I don't know. I can't imagine what it would be directly related to, what kind of policies it would be directly related to.
Right.
And I'm not sure how laying off part of your staff helps or hurts that, but I don't know everything either. So, boys, it's time to talk about what we have been playing. Brandon, you go first.
So I started a new save in Elden Ring. Again, I've watched hours and hours and hours of Night Rain content, and it got me just standing at attention. So I popped back into Elden Ring. I played about 2 hours. I did like the quickest run I possibly could with a weapon that used unanimously the Bloodhound Fang, one of the best weapons in the game. And in about 2 hours, I made it past Renala, Queen of the Full Moon. So, pretty good. It's probably my quickest time. I did a couple cheesy things to kind of get there, but I didn't break the game at all. So, I'm willing to take it. It was a lot of fun.
Can you give an example of one of these cheesy things?
There's the giant decaying dragon in Ohio, the red section of the map, and if you just and if you just stay towards the back of its tail, no matter how low your damage is, I think I spent like between 5 and 10 minutes slashing at its tail, and it gave me like 75k ruins, which at that point was like 15 levels or something. And then also in the red area, Commander Neil is kind of a bitch of a boss fight. He has rot and he has a large staff and he summons guys to shoot at you and come get you. You can lure him out into the rot swamp, and if you stand on a certain log, he'll like get hit with the geyser. So I did that. Those were my two cheesy things. Everything else I collected myself and ran through, but I did that to kind of propel my run in the right direction very quickly. So yeah, it was good. It was a lot of fun. I see why people say that's one of the best weapons in the game. I've literally never used it, and it's insane. Especially, to be +5 in fight. I fought the first boss at +5, and yeah, it was. I was back on my bullshit. Let's just say that. So, that, and I have played more Civ 7. I beat my first game of Civ 7. I haven't played that much this week. I haven't played much games this week, honestly.
Sorry.
But
How do you beat Civilization?
So in Civ 7 specifically, you essentially have runs, right? You get to a victory condition, and in the other Civs, there was a one more turn function where you could just simply keep playing that game, right? I think they will patch it eventually, and I think this is a huge oversight. But in Civ 7, once a NPC or you reach the win qualifier, the game's over. It kicks you out, which I think is a huge oversight, and I don't like about it at all. I think they will change that in the future, if I had to guess, because I feel like that's not quite right. But yeah, so it took about 10 hours to get through my first one. I played on standard speed, the biggest map size I could. I was Benjamin Franklin of Rome at the beginning. And then by the end, I was Benjamin Franklin of America. And so I got a cultural victory. Culture is one of my favorites. I will say, there's a lot of stuff I like about this game. I think the pacing's great. I love how you can stack units now. A lot of it still is very confusing to me. I think I talked last week about how you don't need workers now, and I really like that. But there's a lot of nuance to this game I'm still kind of sifting through. So one of my favorite things about Civ 5's cultural victory, and why I was striving for a cultural victory, was because in Civ 5, whenever you got great works, it was actually great works. Like, it was a Van Gogh,
They were real things.
or it was a Monet, or it was The Art of War, and it would read an excerpt from it, and that was like the coolest thing to me as someone who's like very passionate about mostly physical art. Not, I guess most art is physical, at least in this context, but like painting, sculptures, stuff like that is what I really got jazzed about. And knowing that my Civ had those things in their civilization was really cool for me. Just to kind of see all that stuff. But they kind of took that away. Now it's more just like general relics. You'll have like this ancient vase or this ancient mask. So that's something I'm kind of missing a little bit from Civ 5. It's not the end of the world, but that was a large motivator in my decision to win many cultural victories in Civ 5, because I liked seeing the works, because they were real, perceivable works that I could then, admire in a way. So, yeah, I also stretched my legs a little bit for a little bit of a domination victory as well. I ultimately was pivoting towards culture, but I had taken one of the capitals of the other city by the time I had won that. So it's a good game, man. Really, really good. I'm enjoying it. I need to kind of dig a little bit deeper, and that's probably going to take the next 30 to 40 hours for me to, fully understand what I'm doing here, because even though I have over 300 hours in the past 2 games, I still am not quite there yet. So
I also popped in for, I don't know, about 2 hours. I think I played about 2 hours of 2 to 3, somewhere in there, of Civ 7. And I played a little bit of Civ 5, not enough to really, not recently enough to remember a whole lot. And I know that Civ 7, there's obviously quite a few differences. But I was, in the first mission, moving right along, doing great things. Had a big old army build up. I was going for a warlord domination, and took over a city or two, and then stretched a little too thin, got my ass kicked, and went to bed. So that was my one. That was my one run so far of that game. I'll go ahead and talk about the other stuff, because there's not a lot. Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. I've got about 3 hours in it. Gotten past like the opening credits basically, and I'm in the town, and it's the first time you really kind of get like let loose to go do what you want to do. And I got ready to go out and do what I wanted to do, and looked around and was like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do now. And then started walking in the direction I thought I was supposed to go, and then decided I didn't want to play it anymore that night, and haven't gone back to it. That's been like a week now. So that went really well. I think it's great so far. I really like it, and I like the mechanics and the characters and everything. I didn't play Kingdom Come Deliverance 1. I watched a good bit of it when a buddy streamed it one time, but I'll probably go back to it at some point. I don't know if I'll beat it, honestly. It's a big game, and my attention span is getting shorter as I get older somehow. I think that's the opposite of how it's supposed to work, but yeah, that's where that went for me. I had a lot of fun the 3 hours of it I played, but then I got really like, I don't want to figure this out right now, kind of thing. Just give me. It was one of those instances where I was like, just give me a map marker and what to do next. And I don't usually play games like that, so it was an interesting experience. And then I've been playing a lot of Rivals still. I'm no longer in Platinum. I am now in Gold. Which, if for anybody who's paying attention at home, that is the opposite of the direction you're supposed to go. It was a brutal week, and I rage quit a few times. Not actually rage quit. I just was like, I can't lose another game tonight, and just quit.
Do you have like a main yet, or are you still?
I'm a pretty much a flex, because so many people instant lock their characters. I just like kind of at this point, I'm like waiting 10 seconds literally for all 5 other people on my team to instant lock, and then choosing what I want to play. So I have mains in different categories. And if you look at my stats, and there's a third party website I use to look at them, you'll see that like most of my time is on tank and healer, because like I've played some matches as damage, but there's so few matches where people don't instant lock all the damage characters that I never play damage, because I want to win. I don't just want to play the character I want to play. I want to win.
Right.
So I'm playing the characters that need to be played. But I have mains in those categories for sure. But it's also situational. I'm going to play Thor if I get the opportunity, but not if I don't have another tank. If somebody's not willing to be a second tank, I don't think Thor is a good solo tank. So I'll play Doctor Strange or Magneto. If I'm playing a healer, and somebody instant locks Rocket or Loki or Adam Warlock, then I'm going Luna because I think she's the strongest healer. At least the way I play her, at least the way I play, she's the strongest healer. But if somebody else locks in her or Invisible Woman or something like that, then I'll go Cloak and Dagger. So like I have my preferences, in order of what I prefer the most in the categories that I play. But no, to answer your actual question that you asked, I don't have a main that I always go to. I prefer just to do whatever's best for team strategy than to play the character I want to play most. And then finally, as part of my resolution to play my Steam Deck or my handhelds more, I was like, you know what, I'm going to play Yakuza 0 because everybody's like, you should play the Yakuza games. And I've always wanted to. I've started Yakuza 0 before, actually. No, I didn't. I started Kiwami before. But Yakuza 0, it was in the Steam library, so I put it on the Steam Deck. It's supposed to run great. It did run great. And I played for like, I don't know, an hour and a half to 2 hours, somewhere in there. And I thought I saved it. Turns out I didn't. So I lost that hour and a half, 2 hours. Now I'm not sure if I'm ever going to go back to it. I probably will, but apparently I Googled it afterwards. I'm like, why didn't this save? Apparently this is a very common problem with specifically Yakuza 0. And because I've never played, I played Like a Dragon for like 30 hours. But other than that, I've never played a Yakuza game, and I just was unaware of how the save system worked. That you had to be at a phone booth. So there's no auto saves. You literally have to manually save. And the way I thought you manually saved was not the way you manually save. So with that said, I played like an hour and a half of Yakuza 0, but I have nothing to show for it other than pain. Dave.
So does that count towards your resolution if you didn't save?
I mean, it counts. I'm still pissed about it. I didn't do it for my resolution. I did it because I had a Sunday afternoon free, and I was going to sit on the recliner with the kids while they were playing games, and I was going to play a game. And yeah,
cool.
Ended in pain though.
Quick update on the Deep Rock Galactic Kickstarter brought to you by Scorched Steel. It has reached its goal. The goal was 250,000 euros. It's currently sitting at 619,000 euros. So it's just about 80,000 euros short of its first stretch goal. But if you back this project, you are getting a mug if you pledged a certain amount. But yeah, so Rock and Stone.
Did you pledge?
No.
Are you going to?
I don't think so. $100 for a mug. It's a bit much.
Yeah, but it's for Deep Rock. No, I didn't yet.
I know. I don't know. We'll see. But I'm glad they got it, and I'm not surprised. People have been asking for these for a long time, and there's a lot of like Etsy sellers and stuff who have already got them because anybody can make it with a 3D printer. But it's cool to see something that is 3D printed, but is also food safe. So and official. So, are
they selling the plans?
Sorry.
Are they?
I don't believe so. No.
Oh, okay. I thought that's what you meant by some people already have them.
No. I don't know. I've seen them on other marketplaces before.
Right.
But yeah. So I've only really been playing a little bit of Helldivers, but most of my time this week has been in Gran Turismo 7. As I said last week, I'm hoping to hit the 100-hour mark before Monster Hunter comes out next week, at the end of next week. I think I'm at about 92 hours right now, so well on my way. And I tried something earlier today that in my damn near 100 hours of Gran Turismo 7 I have never done before. Brandon, you've always told me you should try anything once. So I jumped into GT Sport Competitive. I played competitive Gran Turismo, which I have never done before. And my biggest fear with playing competitive was being like unintentionally an idiot and like hitting people and shit, and just people getting really upset. and I guess I wasn't giving myself enough credit, because in my 100 hours of Gran Turismo gaming, and hundreds of hours before that in other Gran Turismo and racing sims, I've learned to be a decent driver. So I played Daily Race A 3 times, and today it was on Sardinia, and it was in Ford Escort Cosworth. So one car, one set of tires, 4 laps. So it was parity, complete parity. Like everybody was driving the exact same car, no tuning or anything, which is great. And I did pretty well. I finished fourth twice, and I think fifth once. And I did a bit of qualifying, and in one of the lobbies I qualified second. So yeah, I want to play more. I want to play more.
Yeah, dude.
GT Online, or sorry, GT Sport competitive. It's a little bit different from some of the online competitive experiences that I've been accustomed to. There are 3 daily races at any given time, and there's a new lobby every 10 minutes. So there is a bit of waiting around, but like while you're waiting for that new lobby to open, that's when you qualify. You'll get into qualification specific time trial, and that's great, because rather than just jumping straight into a race, you have 5 to 10 laps to qualify for a time and get to know the track and the car, and then you jump into a bit of practice, and then you're into the lobbies. So it's I'm glad I tried it, because this might take me through to my kind of 120 hour goal that I want with Gran Turismo. I will say though that in Gran Turismo there is matchmaking, and there's a dual rating system. So you have your driver rating and your sportsmanship rating. And the thing that people have to know about Gran Turismo when starting out in GT Sport is you kind of have to tough it out in the shameful rammer lobbies for a little bit, because the less ramming and like unsportsmanship stuff that you do, the higher your rank gets, and then you get out of the degenerate lobbies, which is where all the idiots are. So I mentioned that I qualified second in one of my races. So by the second turn, I had been run off the track, and I was in dead last, just for people being idiots. And that's just kind of what you have to deal with for a little while until your ranking goes up, and then you get into better lobbies for sportsmanship. The driving is going to be a lot more competitive, but it's going to be more fun, because there's no place for that in Gran Turismo. So yeah, I don't know. Have you guys ever tried GT Sport?
No.
I've played a lot of local games with a half dozen dudes before. Yeah, so I've kind of got the experience, but not actually done it.
Yeah. It was fun. If you're thinking of getting back into Gran Turismo, or just kind of jumping in for a couple of races, it's a fun and I don't know. I liked it. I think I'm gonna play more. There's a lot more. It is cool too, because each one of the 3 daily races gives you like an approximate time commitment. So there are some races where it's like they're like 20 laps and multiple pit stops are involved, and you really have to qualify, and those ones could take upwards of an hour, whereas other ones you could finish a race in 15 minutes. That's with qualifying. So yeah, there's a lot more flexibility than I thought, but yeah.
Nice. It's so dumb to say this, but I've always wanted to get into racing games more, and I just never have. And I'm like, well, then you didn't really want to very much, Ben. But like the idea to me is more appealing than the actual thing. Yeah. But I love racing games. Just I love them very casually. I'm about to sneeze.
I love vehicles. That's why I love racing games.
Yeah.
I think if I didn't like vehicles as much as I did, I would not play racing games nearly as much.
Yeah, like if I hated cars, racing games wouldn't be very fun. Probably.
What I'm seeing a lot of my motivation to play racing games is the cars, not necessarily the racing. I mean,
yeah.
That's like a byproduct of it, right? But
yeah, I get it. I get what you're saying. And that's all we got for you. That's the show. Dun, 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 dun. Did you guys see the Tony Hawk rumor / reveal? No. You're welcome.
It was a rumor
or a reveal, Greed.
Yeah.
Pick a lane.
I think it was a rumor.
Right.
A skater said something about another remaster coming
We
out. Or
we
something
talked
like that.
about that. Well, maybe it was a different one, but we've talked about a rumor. For
It was
months.
like within the past day. I
Yeah.
think.
Okay. I didn't see it. That's all.
What skater are we talking about? Are we talking about like Mark Appleyard or like Day One?
Bob
Song?
Burnquist.
Was he a skateboarder?
Bob Burnquist?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
He was in Tony Hawk 1 and 2 and maybe 3.
Right.
Yep.
Rodney Mullen. All these names are coming back to me now.
Did you guys ever play any of the BMX games like Dave Miras?
Did. Yeah.
Dude.
Remember the porn one? There a porn BMX game. It was called Triple X or something.
No, I don't remember
Oh,
that.
Or
really?
BMX, but it had 3 X's.
Was it actually a porn game?
PS1? It wasn't porn, but it had like PS1 nudity.
Oh, okay.
Oh
Yeah.
shit, Dave's right.
Yeah.
It's like bikini women on BMX bikes.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
No, I don't remember that.
On the
The
original
PS1 era, I
Xbox.
was pretty much getting games for Christmas or renting them at the video store, and I doubt the video store had them, so I
Yeah.
probably wouldn't have even seen them.
Yeah.
Thanks, woke.
Thanks, Wook. It's all for the show. Go support us on patreon.com/handsomefandom. We appreciate it very much. Little as $1 or less. No, $1 a month, not $1 or less. We're only asking for $1 a month here. We're not asking for less than that, please. You can also join us on Discord at handsomefandom.com/Discord. We appreciate anybody who helps out there or who hangs out there. I need to be done with the show. It's been a long day for me. Derek says, happy 11th anniversary of Ghost Story Games not releasing a game. Surely Judas is this year. And with that, we bid you adieu. Goodbye, everybody. Good night. I gotta wait awkwardly while this